All right, next steps, we've got our biscuits cut. Now we need to do some little finessing work. So what's gonna happen is I'm going to bring my pan over closer to my biscuits. I am going to very gently lift up each one and brush off any excess flour off the bottom. So again, gentle, 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 so we're not ruining the shape of our biscuits, causing any further gluten development, because it is possible. So we just gently and lightly brush off this flour. Now when I pick them up, I'm trying to grab for that bottom edge as much as I can, because if I start pinching the sides, I'm actually going to seal the edges of the biscuit, and that's going to cause it to, instead of rise level, it's going to start to tilt and slant, and that lets us know, yep, we had a sealed edge. Not the end of the world by any means, but if we're going with culinary specific skills and techniques, we want to try to get the best product that we absolutely can. So like with this little guy, just try to pick up near that bottom edge, just brush off that little spot there, and then we'll get this last one and we'll get this bottom brushed off as well. Now, the nice thing about biscuits is that they rise up. They should double in height, but they should not be baking out. So as far as spacing, you can have them about an inch close together, which means your biscuits should fit very nicely, like two of you to a pan. If you need more pan space, then I'm going to take a pretty good guess that you rolled out your dough or patted out your dough way too thin. So remember, half an inch to an inch, that's how tall your biscuit dough should be. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these into the oven, and they're gonna bake for about 10 to 12 minutes. So I'll set my timer so I don't forget about them. And again, we're gonna start with 10, because if my biscuits are done, then great, take them out. But if they're not done, I can always add more time. Remember, once something burns, it's really, really hard to unburn it. It's gonna be that way for a long time. So next, I've got time to do some cleanup. So just like what we did with sugar cookies, I'm gonna take my biscuit cutter and I'm gonna go around in circles, and I am going to loosen up any fat that wanted to stick to the counters, okay? Once I've done that, I can start to gather it on my counter into a pile. And then this, I'll be able to bring a small garbage can over and then just brush it into the garbage can, and then go back with this finer mess with my dishcloth. If I try to do the dishcloth with all of this, there's liquid in here and there's flour in here. I am making a gluten gummy mess on my counter that is going to be so frustrating to try to clean up. So make sure get as much of this excess stuff brushed into the garbage before you ever go to that dishcloth. Now, any excess flour that you have, this will have to get thrown away because COVID stuff, so sorry. In the past, as long as you didn't touch it with your fingers, you could dump it back in the container, but we're just gonna be a little extra cautious this year while we go through our pandemic. And then obviously everything dishes-wise we can get cleaned up. The one thing I really need you to clean quite well is that pastry blender, because it's very hard to get into those tines. So you're gonna have to take your dishcloth and use some of these edges and try to fine clean inside those tines, because that would be a place where students have lost points in the past because there's still some shortening gunk stuck to those. But otherwise, the rest of the cleanup is pretty straightforward. Just wash, rinse, sanitize like we normally would. And by the time you're done doing your dishes, my bet would be your timer is gonna be going off for that 10 minutes. You'll go ahead and check them. So I'm gonna stop right there so I can do some of my cleanup, and then we will check on our biscuits to see what they're looking like.